Good morning and welcome to the Morning Spotlight Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Cam, coming to you as always from the Spotlight Studios here in Morristown, New Jersey. My guest today is the foodie fit in your jeans queen, the owner and founder of the Rhino Gyms and the Rhino Ninja Gym, and the host of the Foodie Fit in Your Jeans 5-day free online challenges, which I just signed up for just before we started recording this, the 5-day one. I'm not doing any more than that. She started her gyms because she needed to lose 65 pounds, same, but she didn't like gyms, also same. So she started her own and figured out how to lose weight without giving up the things she loves, including food, time with her family, and working on her business. She is Rhino Julie. Julie, welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness, let's do this. I'm so excited.
I'm very excited. So I told you before we started like what I was going to say before. I didn't tell you, but I said I was going to say something. So we met through Podmax, but I never had you on my show before, and I never came on yours. One thing, every time we did a Podmax event as a host, and then you're the guest, I was like, give me Rhino, I want Rhino Julie. I want Rhino Julie. I want Rhino Julie. And every time I would get the list, I wouldn't get you. So bone to pick with Josh and Eric there. But then I said, screw it. I'm just going to like go for it and have you on myself because why not, you know?
You made it happen.
That's what we got to do. But, like the one thing, and I'll just, I'll toot your horn here a little bit at the beginning. But one thing that I notice, and people that come through Podmax, generally I vibe with. And I'm sure that we're going to vibe. We've already been vibing so far. But I think like the energy that you bring and then just like the approach, I think is going to be a perfect episode for our audience, even though it's going to be a little bit unique. So normally we'll talk about real estate people and their stories and all that kind of stuff, or business people, or you're an entrepreneur, so that fits in right there. But talking also about like the fitness side of it, I think is important because as someone that's been in the professional sphere since, I coached college baseball for 5 years after college, so that's professional, I guess, in quotes. But I was a fat loser then. And then when I started, my now corporate jobs, I always struggled with trying to find that balance. Like I played college baseball and that was easy for me to stay in shape because I was working out, going to practice, running, pitching, all that kind of stuff. So I could eat whatever I want, drink whatever I want, do other things that those records are sealed, so we won't talk about that. But, but
you were in your 20s.
Exactly. I was like late teens, early 20s. So I was just like, I'm invincible. Right. So, but you're here. This isn't about me. You're here. So the first question, I guess, so is Rhino Julie, is that a family name? I would imagine not.
Well, it's a family name because we have a family of rhinos.
Well, there
People
you go.
always ask me, you have kids? And I say, no, but I have 600 rhinos. We call our gym members rhinos. No, long time ago, we had an issue. We had boot camp Las Vegas and we had someone start Las Vegas boot camp. And then we had our own Parks and Recreation department started Vegas Valley boot camp and people got us confused with other people.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to be different. I loved rhinos and I started Googling, okay, is rhino associated with any major sports teams? Is it associated with any movies? And it was nothing. There was like pictures of lonely rhinos and that was it. And I was like, it's mine. And then people started calling me Rhino Julie. It became my license plate. And Julie Johnston is a famous soccer player. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to be me, Rhino Julie.
Right.
And you can call me Rhino or Julie. My head will spin around, either one.
I love it. But so obviously if you're someone that owns 3 gyms, right? 3 gyms?
Yes.
And does all these fitness challenges online. And I know you went a lot online over the course of like the pandemic and obviously still into this year. So obviously your background is just steeped in fitness, right?
Well, my background is that I don't like working out and I love food.
Same.
And
That's what I said, yeah.
I love business. I love learning. I could just learn about business all day and read books. Like I love playing the game, but I had a little advertising business back in the day and my business was growing just as much as my rear end was at the same time. And I just realized that no matter how much pleasure business brought me, when I was overweight, I hated myself. I was just so freaking miserable. And I would be in meetings. I remember meeting with this I was intimidated. His name was Russi Bossangiev. And I just remember sweating and I had to wear a jacket because my top of my skirt wouldn't button. And I had one of those little ponytail holders. The girls know what I'm talking about but I had to wear a jacket to like cover that.
Yeah.
And it's just life was miserable, but going to the gym, I had this personal trainer that like put me up my rear end in the air on this Bosu ball and then stretched me out all weird. And I was like, what is this? Like, I couldn't stand the normal gyms, but I knew that I ate too much. And so I was like, I'm going to start my own gym. But I kind of thought I had to join the military to have a drill instructor yell at me because I don't like working out. I
Sure.
felt like I wasn't disciplined, right?
Yeah.
But I also don't like to have people telling me what to do. And so I was like, well, joining the military for that reason, it's a terrible thing. And thank you for everyone who serve and do it for the right reasons. So I started my own civilian boot camp and I hired these military guys and went out to a park and I told them to torture me. And then the next day I had a little hat and a whistle and I was teaching it. And that's the story.
Yeah.
That's how I started.
You know what I think is just so interesting about that? And so I listened to shout out a couple more Podmax people. I listened to you on Pablo Gonzalez's podcast and the Biz Bros just before, like leading up into this. And I knew you were going to talk about the Bulgarian guy. My girlfriend's Bulgarian, fun fact. But she's also intimidating. but so I think that's so interesting because like, it's like you get weight loss advice from someone that may be less in shape than you. So obviously, I would imagine, I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but maybe some imposter syndrome there. But at the same time, like when you decide to start your own gym, did you have what did you do to, like, I know you started a boot camp, but you're just like, let's just go like do some crazy shit in a park and like maybe we'll lose some weight. Was like that the mindset there? Or did you like kind of like learn some things, be like, okay, we'll do this workout program?
No, the original mindset was I eat way too much and I'm not going to stop eating like what I want to eat. I was up to like 2 Philly cheesesteaks in a lunch and
Okay.
like I was awesome. Like I could really
Respect.
move some food. Thank you. And so I was like, well, we're going to have to work out really, really hard. And there wasn't a program like that. And of course, now fast forward almost 18 years now, I'm older. I don't have 2 to 4 hours a day. And so it's been this really long process, starting with me having no idea what I was doing. But you know what? I was kind of doing it right without knowing it.
Yeah.
Because you want progressive adaptation, you want varied exercises. Like it's good for us to push ourselves in a safe way,
Yeah.
mentally, physically. So inadvertently, I was doing things actually pretty well. And then now, fast forward, now I'm like, okay, I don't have hours a day. I got bit by my own dog. He has trauma. He's a rescue. And I was out for 5 months during the pandemic, 5 months. And I had to figure out all of this all over again without working out at all.
Yeah.
And so now I have, and I still eat fun things. I don't down 2 Philly cheesesteaks for lunch anymore, but I'm still pretty awesome.
I love the word awesome just because in like that context, just because I'm awesome too, but you know, I do whatever I want. So, but as we're kind of like going through this, so you do the thing in the park, then eventually start the Rhino stuff and all that. But like, was there a point, maybe on an entrepreneurial side, where you just started seeing things kind of snowball and like, you know, you started seeing like success happen and you're just like, oh my God, like, is this happening? Is this like actually, you know, working for me?
Yes. So my first year, I had one paying client. She gave me $100 because she felt sorry for me because I kept having people come out to the parks and then they would leave and never come back because there's this overweight girl with a whistle and wearing camo, like having us do obstacle courses in the park. It was really strange. And then once I lost the weight, I was like, you know, I am so into this. Like, I want to have fun working out. That's always been my thing. I want to push hard, have fun, be with really cool people, kind of like I'm on a team, except we don't have a coach torturing us. Like, we're kind of working hard on our own.
Sure.
And I was like, I want this so bad. I need to figure out like how once and for all to see if this is actually a good idea. Cause so far I hadn't proven the concept. And so I think it was one of our members and I like had this idea. We're like, okay, I'm going to call the local news station and I'm going to tell them that the other news station is challenging them to an obstacle course competition. And then I called the other one and told them that the other one had challenged them. And Channel 3 believed us and sent out their anchor and their reporter for a 2-hour live shot. And I had to like make it look like it was actually a thing. So I begged people. I'm like, come on, please come out. And I, you know, I call my mom by her first name, you know, for the cameras, right? Like, good job, Kathy. Nice form. You're doing great. And it's my mom.
Yeah.
But During that time, we had 83 phone calls within the 2 hours. And I was like, people want this.
Yeah.
And I knew I wanted it, but I hadn't had luck finding, the people. And then at that time we did. And then it started to just snowball and we got a lot of press, a lot of attention. And then of course, with more everything comes more problems. But looking back, I feel like I brought all the problems on myself, all my business problems.
As we all tend to do. So one of the things that you said in there, which I think is interesting, and I need to expand upon it, is people want this. What is this?
People want to feel like a kid again. They want to be with a group of people. They want camaraderie. They want the workouts to be different every day. They want to kind of like not know what's coming. And they also want to really feel good about what they can do. I've always told the coaches, and now we have programming that the coaches follow, but I always told the coaches, we need every single workout. We need to have something that they could go home and tell their significant other, like, I did this today. Whether it's like carrying a log or pushing a sled or, I did this today.
Right.
Something that makes them feel super duper accomplished. And also we have a ninja gym because I get bored. So of course I have to have a ninja gym. And I have 2 ladies in their 50s. And they say that every day they go, they learn something new and they're less and less scared every day they go. And I think that when we can conquer the physical, all of a sudden we feel like we can do anything. Like we're ready for a zombie apocalypse. We're ready for a business meeting. I had a girl tell me that she brings her Rhino toughness to all her board meetings. And I was like, yes. We even do Rhino tough on 3 at the end of every 1, 2, 3 Rhino tough. Yeah. Because we're a team.
Right. No, I love that. So out of the 3 gyms, one's a ninja gym, which I'm not even really sure what that is, but
obstacle courses.
Oh, cool.
Yes.
And then
American Ninja Warrior.
Oh, American Ninja Warrior. Duh, Mike. And then one I know is a CrossFit gym, right?
Yeah. So I have CrossFit and boot camp at both my other locations.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Yes.
So I mentioned to you, and when we were talking about this, so my other show that I host, the Greetings from the Garden State podcast, we had a CrossFit gym on, and I really hadn't worked out at all. So, I mean, I graduated college in 2012 and have basically been fat ever since. But I went and I interviewed the owner of the Motown Fitness. So shout out Motown Fitness here in Morristown, Kariana. And I was, talking to her. She offered to buy me a coffee before we even went. And my experiences with CrossFit, not that I've done it, but I know people that have done it. And to me, it's very and I mean this with no disrespect. No disrespect to you. It always seems very culty, when I was in my 20s and coaching baseball, one of the other assistant coaches for one of the other teams did it. And they were always hanging out with each other. There may not been just triangle, love triangles and squares and octagons and all these different kind of crazy things. And I'm
You're not wrong.
Yeah. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. And I said that to her too. And then as we started talking, and she's talking about her 75-year-old mother doing it and all this other stuff. And I remember sitting there, we're sitting in the gym where we were using one of her boxes as our table to record the episode. And it was just maybe I could do this, I mean, nothing else had ever worked since I had been done playing. I would go to the gym. I'd go for maybe a month or two, a few times a week, wouldn't see any changes. And then would just be oh, it's the summer. I'll just lose weight automatically. And then the older I get, obviously, you're in this business. It doesn't happen. I don't know where I was going with that story, but that's my story so far. But
you touched on CrossFit, the culture and how it's putting the cult in culture. And I think what you described, it does have its own language and its own words, but everybody is so welcoming. And the thing about the boot camps too, boot camp and CrossFit, most people come into it because they're missing something in their lives. They're not the kind of people who can just go bro it out at a 24-hour fitness or EOS, or else they would. They're missing something and they're looking for it. And then they find it and they're just all about it. And their friends get sick of hearing about it. And, it's the way it is.
Right. I remember I was in a group text and we were doing another one of the episodes. We did outdoor camping in November, late November in New Jersey. And it was in the 20s. and we, stayed out overnight, and I was like freaking out. But I mentioned that, like, oh, that morning I have a CrossFit class, and then I'll come out. And one of the guys in the group text was just like, it's true. People that do CrossFit always tell you that they do CrossFit. And I was like, I guess I'm one of those guys now. But that, I mean, that's something that I've kind of discovered, and maybe like, I didn't even realize, and this I think is where I'm trying to go with this. Didn't even realize maybe like how I was feeling and what I was doing to myself and like all that kind of stuff. Because when I was in college, I could, like I said, eat, drink, do whatever, and like never really had any problems. But then that same lifestyle just continues because it's just like ingrained in you. And that's kind of one of the things it seems like you're trying to like help people kind of balance it out, like do those fun things and be awesome, but also like take care of yourself. And I think that the people that I work with, whether they're clients or networking partners or me myself, I don't think that always you realize, like how shitty you feel, right? And then it's
Yes.
like you said that, you're just uncomfortable in the meeting with the guy and all this stuff. And that was like the aha moment, the coming to Jesus moment. And like, for me, I don't even think I ever even had that moment. So like I think sometimes too, when you're talking to people that are successful and people that are, busy with work and, they're maybe entrepreneurial. So their hours are a little bit different than most people's. They're just more hours that they have to actually work on it. So sometimes I think maybe one of the barriers to doing something like what you're doing is the time. And be like, it's just like so easy to just be like, well, I don't have the time to go to, a Rhino gym and run on an obstacle course or do a CrossFit class for an hour or whatever. So like, how do you kind of combat that mindset, I guess?
Yeah. So I start everyone with my 5-day challenge now because it's online. So anyone can do it and you can watch the replays whenever. You can listen to it while you're cooking or, I don't know, walking. And so I teach everyone how I call it the 3 to Thrive, 3 minutes a day. You have to join the 5-day challenge to figure like to hear what it is. But I teach people how to start with just 3 minutes a day and then go from there. And it's really about letting go of the all or nothing, thinking that we have to either go be perfect little humanoids and survive on chicken, broccoli, and sadness in order to have a six pack. Like go from that to just working all the time and not taking care of ourselves at all. And it's just like in our business. Like if we do one little tiny needle mover every single day, but we do it every single day in our business, we see the result big time. And so with our bodies, you're right. A lot of us don't even know. I just wanted to be thin so I could fit in my clothes and go to business meetings and not feel like I used to feel terrible in social situations. That was my only goal.
Yeah.
My goal was not to feel better because I didn't know how bad I felt. And then once I started to feel good, this fog lifted from my brain that I didn't even know was there. I started to want to wake up. I've always been driven. I've been weird because I've always been driven, but I've also never really wanted to get out of bed. Like,
Yeah,
always
I
wanted
can
to,
relate to that. Yeah, like I do.
like,
Like, I mean, it seems like you're the
yeah,
same way. Like, I do a lot of cool
yeah,
stuff, and like I,
yes,
have this project, I have the other
yes,
project, I have my actual job, and like those things
yeah,
get done, and they're awesome. You know,
yes,
but at the same time, like I mean, you put a video game controller in my hand, and I'm playing, Cowboys like for whatever, like however many hours in a day, and I'm just like, oh no, I missed a day. Like the whole day's gone now. It's dark already. But it's the same
yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And so when we start taking care of ourselves little by little, all of a sudden the creator in us comes out and we start to want to fulfill our destiny on this earth because we have the energy for it. And we're waking up with ideas in the morning and getting excited about life. And used to be, I would only get excited about food. So I would get out of bed for breakfast, but it wasn't really life that was getting me out of bed.
Right.
Like
Well, it
I
is the most
never,
important meal of the day. I mean, in
it
my opinion,
is.
and the best food, also in my opinion. But
I never understood like people like hiking and stuff.
yeah,
Like I never
yeah.
understood. I'm like, well, if there's a picnic, then I understand. There's a lot of things that I didn't understand until I started to have energy. And I'm like, oh, I get it now.
Right, right. So one of the other things that I think is interesting too about your situation, this is kind of like marrying the fitness side of it with the entrepreneurial side of it, is I think that like what I think is cool, and we've had plenty of people, a good amount of people on this show that have had a similar vibe, and it's like you're on this same journey that you're taking all your other people on. And that seems to be something that's like with coaches, and whether they're like life coaches or business coaches or fitness coaches or whatever, it's easy to like look at someone and be like, this is what they're saying. There's no way that they get up in the morning, they do like, they journal, they stretch, they meditate, they do all these other things. And like, then they start their day. Like, what do you get up at 3 o'clock in the morning? But then you talk to somebody like you, and I've had other guests, like I said before, that have a similar type thing, maybe not in fitness, but in other areas where it's like they're on this same journey with you. And I think that that is something that I think is just very real and makes people trust you more. So is that something that you've noticed as well? Like people seem to kind of gravitate towards you because you're doing it. Like you're there, like you're working out, you're on the same journey all the time.
Yes. And they know when my mom bakes an apple pie that I take home and I eat the entire thing by myself. Like they know when I tell them, I'm like, okay, I haven't meditated this week and I feel it and it shows. And here's the difference. And oh yeah, I put it all out there. I'm always embarrassing my brothers. They run the gyms with me and they're like, oh, what's she gonna say on the internet next?
Yeah, my parents are always very concerned that I'm going to say something. They're going to be like, you got to be careful. There's a lot of people. You're going to get canceled. I'm like, nobody listens. Just kidding. Plenty of people listen. That's why you're here.
We love every single one of you.
All the spotlighters, we love you.
Yes.
So one of the other things I think is also interesting, maybe going back to the fitness side of it, and then you could tell me all about how like I can do better. But from a goals standpoint, right? So like goals, I think for me when I was in college, it was easy to have a goal. So like I would go work out or go to practice because I wanted to be good at baseball. Like I was a pitcher and I wanted to be a good pitcher. And then once that was done, it's like, why the hell am I even going to go anymore? Like I don't have a reason to do anything. You know what I mean? So like, I know yours was like, you know, looking better, feeling better, fitting into the jeans. That's the whole fit in the jeans challenge. But as a man, I'll just buy a bigger pair of jeans. Like,
Yes.
big deal. I mean, I bought like I look at some pants that maybe like I haven't cleaned out of the closet, and I'm like, whose pants are these? You know what I mean? But like, I think that that's something that sometimes maybe people struggle with is just like the goal side of it is like they don't really have anything necessarily to work towards, so they're just like spinning their wheels and not really doing anything. So like, is it difficult to identify like what the goal is? Is that a good
It
question?
sounds to me it sounds to me like you just love yourself
Yeah.
and you're fine and you're happy and there's nothing really broken there. And then there's going to come a point where you see something like a Spartan race, or maybe you happen across a YouTube channel and you're like, "Oh, I want to try that." And then you get excited about it. Most of us, like if you're not truly motivated by something, usually it's a cataclysmic event. It's like we get really sick, or we get older, we hit a birthday. We get a lot of people start when they turn 40, 50, 60 because they're like, "Oh man, I'm 50 years old, I'm 60 years old, and I haven't even seen what my body's capable of. I have no idea what I can do. Let me find out now."
Right.
And so to me, you described a perfectly happy person. You know, we don't always have to have these physical fitness goals. For me, I'm miserable if I if I don't feel a certain way. Like I am just, well, and then I own gyms though. So try to like
Right.
work on your business when you can't represent your business.
Yeah.
And that just stinks. So for
Right.
me, they're really, really tied together.
Yeah.
But and I didn't really answer your question, but I just
No, I think
wanted
that's
to
good.
say
Yeah. I am a
there's
happy
nothing,
person.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with you. And I think that like they always say like you should stop shoulding on people. But I said don't should on people. Like you should do this, you should do this, you should have a goal. You should do whatever you want.
Right.
You should do whatever feels good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly, if you want to play video games and you've set your life up to where you can play video games, play
Sure.
video games.
Yeah. No, I
think
agree with that. Yeah.
everybody should do whatever they want. And then when you're ready and you're like, okay, I didn't feel good at that party. Like for me, I'll be honest, when I start to gain weight, I get jealous. I am not a jealous person. I think like my boyfriend, he's a musician. Like if he like doesn't want to be with me anymore, someone else will. Like I don't know, like I'm just fine. Like I feel so good and I feel so loved by him, by me. When I gain weight, I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Like out of nowhere. That's not cool.
No,
That
that's
is
not cool. No.
And so like those things for me are just like really good reasons to just, try to stay in shape. But so when you get a goal like that and when you're like, okay, I'm going to figure it out, the main thing that people miss is they have the goal and they sacrifice and they make themselves miserable and they try to survive on chicken, broccoli, and sadness and they work out really hard. And then they fall off the wagon or they reach their goal and they stop. And what we have to do is we have to figure out which one of the million ways to lose weight is actually fun for us.
Right.
Because there are so many different ways to do it. Like, let's make it a game.
Yeah.
And let's make it fun. It's just like in business. If we want to have a successful business and we force ourselves to do things we hate all day, every day to have a successful business, it's not going to work.
Right.
And it's the same with any kind of goal. Like, we can figure out a way that's fun for us. Maybe it's listening to a podcast while taking a walk every day. And that's the first step we take.
Right. Exactly. So, yeah. I mean, I think for me, so like, I think my moment was doing that interview with Cariana and then like watching the video back and then knowing kind of like maybe I had a couple too many the night before. I'm not going to say if I did or not because my mom listens, you know, and then like sitting down there with her in a CrossFit gym, first off being intimidated because I'd never been in there. And then, you know, like talking to her and obviously like she's very in shape and her husband was like, I think in the special forces in the military and they own another gym too. And like, they're both badasses. And I'm like, this is like, and then, you know, like my dad, health stuff with him. So I'm like, I need to try to like do something. And so I was like, let's just try this and then we'll see how it goes. But then it was like, that was the thing. It was like, because it was a game almost, because it's in just an hour, I don't even look at the workout before I go in. I'm just going to do whatever they do on Mondays and Thursdays. And then we just do it. You know, I mean, it might be the same thing Monday and Thursday. And then I'm going to be like hurting over the weekend, but you know, it is what it is. So that's what we're going to do. But so I think one of the other things too is like a lot of the people that so my job, right, my normal job pre-COVID and getting back to normal as much as we possibly can now is going out to lunch, going out for drinks, going out to events, doing all those, you know, fun things. But at the same time, I noticed this early on when I first started the job. Like I would just go to these really nice restaurants all around New Jersey and just be like, well, I'm here and, you know, I can expense this. So I'm just going to like eat whatever I want. And then, you know, like within the first month, I had gained like 15 pounds and I was just like, maybe I shouldn't do this. So is that like, talk to me about balancing that, like, because obviously it's me, like I could do whatever I want, but I have to balance like the work side of it with my own personal side, because I don't just go home and do nothing. Maybe I'll go out with my friends. Maybe I'll go out with my girlfriend. Maybe I'll go out and do this, but then also like not really, I mean, I wasn't that active before, but then, you know, trying to balance those things with like the work stuff and having to do that. And I know a lot of people that listen to this show and that I network with and work with and all that, they do the same thing as me, you know? So like balance, help me balance that.
I always used to like cringe whenever someone told me I needed balance in my life. Or like, you need to meditate. And I'm like, no, I don't. Anyways, it just like the balance, the gradual habit change, my brain would just turn off instantly because I just didn't want to hear it. So if any of you guys are out there like that, keep listening. It's okay. It's going to be okay.
Yes.
So what I do is it's just like running our business. It's like we have a certain amount, you know, of money in the bank. And we have like, if we're going to go running and swiping the debit card all over the place, we would pay attention to how much things cost. Right.
Yeah.
And we would kind of try to plan it. And so for me, in order for me to go out, and I'm going to tell you the real way I do it.
Okay.
So right
I'm ready. I got my pen.
If I know that I'm going to go have fun and I'm going to have a fun dinner, a lot of times I won't eat breakfast and lunch, which is terrible. Yeah. And I feel like crap and it's not good for me. But I don't gain weight doing that.
Right.
And I do the same thing on vacation. I lower the number of meals. So you can call it intermittent fasting if you want, but it's really just less calories.
Sure.
And I plan it. And then if I do that too much, I'm just feeling like crap every single day because I'm doing this. I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to a fun dinner tonight, but I guess I don't need to eat the entire loaf of bread by myself and ask for a second one.
Yeah.
Like, let me feel good. And then I start chasing like how to feel good during the day and still have that. And then I practice the mindful eating where I try to make sure I'm excited about everything I'm eating and I put my fork down in between bites. And then I'm like, if I'm going out to dinner, I'm there with a person. So I try to focus on the person more than the food, which is really hard for me. Yeah. I'm addicted to food, but that's how, and it's really just paying attention and planning. And when we go unconscious and we're like, well, I went out to dinner anyways. Well, F it, I might as well just, you know, eat more or, you know, what's another drink? When we go unconscious, that's when it starts to add up.
Yeah.
But if we really just stay conscious of what we're doing and kind of plan it and track it and pay attention to it, we can have everything. We
Yeah.
can go out to eat every single day.
Right.
We can go out to eat twice a day every single day.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree with that. And I think the unconscious, I basically live in the unconscious side. It's just like, hey, we're out here on Thursday and we're just gonna do whatever we want. And then, oh well, it's the weekend because you gotta party on the weekends. I'm not a party guy, obviously, but yeah. So I mean, like talking more about this, like you mentioned before, and this is before we got on here. You mentioned that you had a 6-pack, and I told you the first thing that came into my brain was not anything to do with you. I was like, oh, she's gonna drink on the show. Like this is gonna be sick. But that's not the case.
Well, you were talking about the hunt for a 6-pack. And I mean, I didn't just come out. That wasn't the first words out of my mouth. It was actually more of, I'm really surprised right now that I have one.
Yeah.
Because my niece made 2 challah breads that I ate by myself. My mom made an apple pie. I had a lot of fun over the holidays, but I followed my little foodie fit in your jeans plan and it all worked out. And so it's more of a surprise thing. But that's funny that was your first thought.
Oh yeah. Right. That's that. I mean, it like actually was concerning because when you started talking and I was just like, oh, like, Mike, come on, man. But I lost my train of thought what I was going to ask next. But I think one of the things that I think is interesting too is like as we're kind of progressing through this and learning about the entrepreneurial journey, the fitness journey, and all that. And this is what I was going to ask: the fit in your jeans, the 5 minute a day. Could you give us like maybe some teasers? You don't have to give us the whole thing if you don't want. I mean, I could talk about it after I try to do it. I think January 10th. This is going to post after January 10th. So we could maybe give some teasers and then get them ready for the next 5-day challenge.
Yeah. So I do it once a month and
Okay.
I'll just tell you what it is.
All right, cool.
So we call it the 3 to Thrive. And I went around and I interviewed all of our most successful clients that we have at the gyms that met with our nutritionists. And I just tried to figure out what's the correlation between what all of them do. And they had to not only be successful, they also had to be happy. Like I needed to see on their Facebook and Instagram that they went to wine country and, weren't freaking tracking their macros. Okay. Like I needed to see that they were having fun.
Yeah.
And so there was one thing that every single one of them continued to do in the years after that kept them successful. And it's also the one thing that I do. And it has to do with what I said about the bank accounts. We track. But most people, when they track their food, they're trying to be perfect. They're trying to count macros. You don't need to count macros. You can if you want to. It makes you happy. Do whatever, right?
Yeah.
Or they're trying to like not have carbs, or they're trying to, whatever they're trying to do. They're attaching tracking with seeking perfection, and then they end up falling off the wagon and stopping. It takes me about 3 minutes a day, actually sometimes 1.5 minutes, I get on the scale first thing every single morning, right after I pee. And I know exactly where I'm at. And then I just put my food in less than 3 minutes total per day. So I always know where I'm at. And then the correlations start to happen in our brain. Like, okay, when I do this, this, and this over time, it goes up. And we're not watching every day. We're watching the trends. It's like the stock market. We're watching the overall trend of our life. And we're just having 3 minutes a day of awareness. We never go unconscious again. And a lot of people are like, oh, that sucks. Like I'm going to have to track for the rest of my life. Well, only if you care about this.
Yeah.
Like if you care about this, then it has been the easiest, best way. And then when I go on vacation, I don't track, please. Okay. I just, whatever, if I'm going to gain 10 pounds on vacation, I do it. And I know exactly what to do when I come back to conscious land.
Right.
Right. But that's where people normally mess it up is they try to track and they're trying to restrict. We do not restrict. I never take down someone's calories. We try everything else first. And there's a lot of everything else's. And we call it playing the game, and we call it having game pieces that they can play. Which game pieces do you want to play? And it just goes along with the awareness every single day of where they're at. So that's what it is.
Okay.
But they'll come to the 5-day challenge because we do it together for 5 days, holding each other accountable. And you learn all the game pieces too, which is pretty fun. There's a lot.
Got it. Well, I'm going to try it. I need to get a scale. That's one thing we don't have in this apartment, which is incredible because we have so much other stuff in this apartment, but we don't have a scale. So maybe I'll get one because I feel like that it appears that I need one in order to even do the 5-day challenge.
And the reason I don't go out in public talking about this is because people will massacre you if you like talk about a scale. And
Yeah.
it's like, listen, we create our own realities. Everything is freaking made up. The numbers on the scale, who cares? Like after a while of doing it, you totally distance yourself from the number and the scale empowers you because so far, like my jeans, like going by my jeans, I know it's the foodie fit in your jeans challenge, but going by my jeans, I'm like, oh, they just came out of the dryer.
Yes.
No,
Oh my
no,
God.
they
That's
didn't.
literally what I say all
No,
the
they-
time.
No, they
Actually,
didn't.
they've been
They
out
came
for
of the
2
dryer.
weeks.
It's on day 3 of wearing the same pair. They just came out of the dryer.
Yeah. Yeah. They're just stretching out.
And so for me, yes, when you start working out, you build muscle. And so you might increase your muscle. But over the lifespan of your life, you will know the trends. And so for me, I'm empowered. Like I used to wake up and all of a sudden I was 20 pounds heavier and I had no freaking clue how I got there. And then I would try to get it off without tracking because I was like, I'm going to be an intuitive eater. I'm going to listen to my body. No,
Yeah.
my body wants food and my body doesn't want to exercise. And like tracking is where it's at. It's just like in our business, if we said, oh, I want to save money, but I'm never going to look at my bank account and I'm going to swipe my debit card all over the place and not pay attention to what anything costs. Does that make any sense?
No, it does not.
No, it doesn't. Not that you're arguing with me. I'll stop yelling at you. But
No, the passion. I love it.
I'm arguing at the people who are gonna say things on social media that Rhino Julie
All the haters.
is a scale lover. She's one of those scale lovers.
So also one of the things, and I think it was interesting that you were talking about the people that are most successful, like, and those are the thing, and your stuff. But maybe like working with some of these clients, and you do virtual stuff as well, so you don't have to be in Vegas to actually come to a Rhino Julie session, I guess,
Yes.
right? So working with these people, whether they're most successful people in the stuff that you do, and then maybe knowing what people in my world do. Do you see them, and this might be just like the most softball of a question of all time, like their business side of it, does that improve after they start taking care of themselves more?
Yes.
Yes.
I will give you my example. So there was a time in my business, I grew fast. I won't say too fast because I like where I'm at right now.
Sure.
So I grew fast, and there was a point where I put all of my money into the obstacle course industry, and I lost it all. And then I went into a lot of debt, and I had a facility. And so I was sitting at my kitchen table, and I had gained weight, and I had never, ever eaten healthy. I was 12 years into my business, and I had only worked out. I had never eaten healthy because that was the one thing I wasn't willing to do. And I sat there and I had $20,000 in payroll. And if all the checks that were already made out cash before doing payroll, I would be negative 13,000.
Okay.
So we're like big negative thousands, no savings because I would always put it back in the business, like nothing. And I sat there and I was like, well, what's the one thing that I haven't done? And I was like, well, the one thing I haven't done is worked on my nutrition. Like that was the one, like that's the one thing. And so I put out an email and asked if anyone wanted to do a nutrition challenge with me.
Yeah.
And people came in spades. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. And so it did save the business to run the nutrition challenge. But more than that, it saved my business because all of a sudden I wasn't so stressed out. Like I could think clearly, I could see the answers to problems. Whereas before, because I wasn't taking care of my brain, I never used to drink enough water. Like ever.
Yeah.
Like water is water. Like we're 70% made of water. How do I expect my brain to function?
Yeah.
Right. And so with my business, we pulled out of a big giant debt hole we were in, and we were able to like do a second location. And that was me changing my nutrition. And of course, inviting other people to do it with me. But the numbers improved a lot more than just the nutrition program that I added.
Right.
Like it was crazy.
Right. Yeah. So basically just changing what you were changing the fuel, instead of putting regular, you started putting unleaded, and then all of a sudden things started getting better, I would imagine. Right.
Yeah. Well, it was more like before I was pushing my car and then I put gas in it.
Okay. So now also what as we're talking and like, you said it before that you have the six pack. You're obviously in way better shape than I am. So and knowing right, like that's why I'm wearing the hoodie because I don't want to get embarrassed on my own show. But so as we're talking about this stuff and like I'm just curious to kind of know, do you have like a normal workout schedule over the course of a week? Like for
Yeah.
you,
So
I mean, granted, you
yeah,
own gyms, so I feel like that's
yeah,
just you can go to work and
yeah,
like do whatever you want. I mean, like when I go to work, I'm either working out of the house, and we live in a one bedroom apartment. There's not a lot of workout equipment here. There's a elliptical here, and it's more of like a clothing rack, um, like a centerpiece of the bedroom.
yeah.
But yeah, so take me maybe through like what like your general week looks like.
Yeah. So for me now, so when I had my dog bite and I was out, I was just like at my house and couldn't exercise. But when I can get to the gym, I go 6 days a week to my Camp Rhino gyms and I do the boot camp classes right now. I did CrossFit, tried to go to the CrossFit games for a few years. But right now where I'm at, I just love my boot camp. I always have. I built it for me.
Yeah.
So I go to boot camp 6 days a week. And then on the seventh day, I either walk my dog or I go and like go mountain biking or something. But it's because I want to. It's because
Sure.
a day without it doesn't feel as good of a day. Like I can go in and right before I do my workout, I can feel kind of a little bad or sad. And then after the workout, I love everyone. Life is amazing. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But you don't need to be crazy. So to just give you a little bit of a difference, I can eat 2,300 calories a day because of
What
the
you do?
exercise that I do, right?
Sure. Yeah.
And if I wasn't doing the exercise, then I would eat less calories. It's not restricting myself. It's just I don't need that much,
Right.
right? And so you just can figure out your own balance. If you go on a walk every day, that's great. Like every little bit counts. Like as we age, though, we really should lift. We really should, get our heart rate up, especially as we age. But everything counts. Everything.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So I gotta figure out my personal balance because even doing this, I'm still not there. I mean, I only do stuff like 2 days a week, which is less
That's
than
amazing.
yeah. No, right. Yeah, no, I totally get that. It's better than zero because that's what it was
Yeah.
before.
Yeah.
But we're still working towards it. We're gonna go
So
skiing this weekend, so
can I help you a
yes,
little bit?
please help me.
Okay. So on those days that you're not going to CrossFit, it depends. If you have motivation, then do more.
Yeah.
But if you don't have motivation on the days that you're not going and having an instructor tell you what to do, like I don't have motivation to work out on my own. So when I was at home during the pandemic, I had to start with like 1 minute a day, like 1 minute a day of plank, 1 minute a day of squats, 1 minute a day of lunges, like something. And then I would be able to go up to 2 minutes, then 3 minutes. And then you can get into a routine of, okay, I'm going to do, 20 push-ups and I'm going to do 20 squats. And like every little bit matters. Or I'm going to take my dog on a walk and I'm going to do squats at every light pole or push-ups at every light pole.
Yeah.
Like just doing something, but knowing that even a minute counts.
Right. Right.
And we always have a minute.
Yeah, I definitely. And I think I fall into the trap sometimes where like I'll do something on a Monday, like so Mondays and Thursdays are right. I'm gonna up it in the next couple weeks, like to go more, just because like I do feel better on the days that I do it, but then I use the fact that I do it 2 days a week as an excuse that Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, the other 5 days, I could do like whatever I want. I do CrossFit twice a week. Sons of bitches. Like, yeah, I can do whatever I want. So I think that's like the big thing. Like for me, the biggest thing is the routine side of it. And like that was always the hardest part because like, I can't just show up to the gym and be like, I'm gonna do CrossFit. I don't even know what I'm doing. I don't know what half the stuff means, but like going to, like a Globo gym, I can go on like the Stairmaster or the elliptical or do a couple of the machines and I can be like, I worked out today. And then, but it doesn't really do anything because I'm just kind of like meandering around and not really focused on it. But for me, the routine side is the biggest side because I have to go at 7:15 in the morning or else I'm not going to go because I'm not going to go later in the day because by the end of the day, I'm toast. So that's the routine side is my biggest side. So maybe starting slow is the good move there.
The other move that I do, like I still don't want to go work out to this day.
Yeah. I mean, when I wake up and it's like the alarm clock rings at like 6:30, I'm like, not today, not today, Satan.
So what I do is I just trick myself and I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to drive over there in my workout clothes and walk through the door.
Yeah.
And I don't think anything beyond that. And then I think like once I'm through the door, I'm just going to do the warm up. And I don't think I'm a grown ass woman. I can leave after the warm up if I want to.
Right. It's your
And
gym. You
then
can do whatever you want.
you just you just keep like doing a little bit more and a little bit more. And I don't know if that sounds completely psychotic to anyone out there, but it's still what I do. Like I'm gonna put on my shoes.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's as far as I think about it.
Yeah. For me, like the 2 days a week, even though it still is like the hurdle to get over, and it's only been a couple months of me doing it, but it's like I'm just gonna go because like everything that's been good in my life has happened by just like showing up to something, whether it's like finding a good client at an event or whatever. And then I get there and I'm sitting there and like pretending to stretch because I can't even touch my toes, so like I'm really trying to work on that. And then I'm watching the class before me do like the workout because it goes 5:15, 6:15, 7:15. I'm the 7:15 class. And I'm watching them and I'm like, oh my God, like that's going to be me in like an hour. And I'm like, I start to sweat and it's, it's
Yes.
New Jersey. It's like 25 degrees out right now, and it's just like, it's crazy. But then I just start and we start slow and we kind of like build ourselves up to it. And by the end of it, and, by the end of the actual class, I'm like, oh, we did it. It was only an hour. I made it. Like we didn't die.
Yes. And too, talking about meditation, working out is a form of meditation
Yeah.
too. Just clearing your mind. So
Right.
I'm like, oh, I'm getting my meditation in
Yeah. Yeah.
as well.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I can always do one more. I have all these little, and I'm like, whoever's the most miserable's winning.
Yeah.
I have all these things I say to myself.
Yeah. My and this this will be my last story, and then I have one more question, then we'll get into our closing segment. So the second class that I ever went to, the first class, it turned out that a kid that I coached in college was the coach. And I was like, Alex, man, I haven't done anything since 2012. So you're going to have to like walk me through this. He's like, oh, don't worry, coach. I got you. Right. So he did it and it was great. Second class I went to, the owner was teaching it. So I was like, oh, I'll go. It was like the first class was free. And then I got a membership and now I'm a member. So I go to her and I walk in and she's like, I have good news and I have bad news. She's like, the good news is you don't have to learn any new CrossFit moves today. And I was like, great. What's the bad news? It's all cardio. And I'm like, excellent. I haven't done cardio in 10 years. So so we had to do, it was teams of 3. You had to do 10,000 meters on the rower and 5,000 on the ski erg. And like, we're doing it and we're doing like minute at a time. So like one person gets to rest. We get to the end. We finish the ski erg because it's obviously less. And we're doing the regular rower. And we're at like 9,750 meters. So we got 250 meters to go. There's another group of guys that is also around us. And whose turn is it? It's mine. And I can't get it to like 9,990 and be like, hey, Billy, why don't you come in and take us the last 10? I'm like, I got to finish. And so like I do it. And everyone's like, we win. That's important because we did win because I am deep-seated, very competitive. And so we finish and everyone's like, yeah, Mike, like, way to go. And I was like, things are spinning. So they're like, oh, like, why don't you go outside, catch your breath? Probably like the worst thing I could have done. Go outside. Now I'm like, my ears are popping. I'm like, am I having a stroke? Like, what is happening to me? So I go back in. I'm like, I'm just going to grab my water, and got the water. And I was like, I gotta relieve myself because it was just too much. I hadn't done anything in so long. And then I walk back out. I basically like, they're doing like a cool down stretch. I heard the owner in there. She's like, where's Mike? And he's like, oh, he just ran to the bathroom. I'm like, get back out there. She's like, all right, we're going to stretch. And I basically like collapse on the floor. And I'm like pretending to stretch. And I walked to class that day. So I had to like walk home. It took me like double, triple the amount of time that it probably should have been just because I was just like dragging my feet. But that was my intro to CrossFit. So it was really great. But yeah.
And you came back.
I did. Yeah. Well, I mean, I paid for the month. So I was like, oh, we got to do the month because I'm not losing this money. But yeah, so I came back and, things are a lot better now. The last class was a cardio class and I didn't throw up. So that was good.
Yes.
But
I
yeah.
used to count my pukers back in the day. We used to be really hardcore and now we're
Right.
like, just take care of yourself. And, it's like I'm aging, so
Yeah.
it's just different. But
Right.
I got up to almost 1,000 pukers.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
And then 23 of them were me in my own classes because I used to do it with them.
that's how you know it's a good class, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah. Um, all right.
No.
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 No, no.
No.
All right. Last question. This is unrelated to basically, it's more on the entrepreneurial side. One of the things that I think is really cool is like the pivot to the online stuff for you. And I think all the stuff that you're doing is really good. Like I said, I listened to some of the guest spots that you did. I was flipping through the YouTube channel a little bit earlier today. And then right before you got on, I was scrolling through through your Instagram just to kind of like get more about you in my brain before we actually started talking. Obviously, 2020 pandemic, that whole thing like forced you into it. Because I would imagine otherwise it might not be a thing. But talk to me about maybe like that journey and starting that and getting comfortable doing it and all that kind of stuff. Because a lot of people that are entrepreneurs, people that listen to this show, me included, that's a big thing right now, no matter what industry you're in, right?
Yeah, no, social media for me used to be something that I did when I was going to the bathroom, and that's about it. And I just remember like just whenever I would post something and the comments would come, I used to be just, oh man, what is someone gonna say like that? So I just would rarely post. And then going into the pandemic, it's like, okay, everything's online. And I remember just being so scared to start my podcast and start putting stuff out there, just the real fear of I don't know what it was, just saying the wrong thing and having it be there forever
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's really just reps. And then I think there's this big mindset shift that happens that none of it matters. Everything's made up. People will love you or they'll hate you or what, like it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And that every time I post vulnerably without worrying about that one weirdo who says the weird thing, or people inbox me and they say, wow, like I needed that.
Yeah.
And so it's really depriving people when you don't post, and when you don't put out like your heart and your heartfelt content, and if you're trying to be online. And so now I am so totally over it. My picture of me with my foodie fit in your jeans thing is so weird. Like I'm ridiculous.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. I mean,
I
that
don't care.
right. In the same way. I think at the beginning, it was very like, when I first started this show, it was just on LinkedIn. It was only 5 minutes. It was very scripted. And I would wear like my suit jacket, maybe a tie and a dress shirt. And I'd like read my questions. My guests would read the answers back to me. So obviously it was like electric content. And because I just needed it to be like very, like my industry is very old school. Like, people don't do what I do in my industry. So it was very, very like guarded and needed to try to be like fit into that mold. And then eventually I was just like, I mean, it was good. It was fine. It helped me get out there. But I was like, it kind of sucks. And you could go look at the Morning Spotlight YouTube page for everybody listening. You could see all those sucky interviews, even though the guests were phenomenal, but I wasn't as good. But then eventually, just like you said, the people that are gonna vibe with what you're putting out are gonna, and the people that don't won't. And that's a hard thing for some people to get. But like, I think also that if you try to water down yourself, then you're basically alienating both people, because people that wouldn't like you still don't like you, and the people that would have liked you don't anyway. So that's what you got to try to overcome. But so obviously we vibe, and this episode has been epic. But before we finish, we're gonna do our closing segment. And now I'm very excited for this because no pressure, because the whole episode has been awesome. So clothing segment, which we call Under the Spotlight, because this is the Morning Spotlight. So the Spotlighters are listening to Mike Hamm and Rhino Julie talk for the last 54 minutes. Or 53 minutes, probably. They've obviously heard a lot of stuff. They've gotten a lot of tips. You helped me a little bit, and all that kind of stuff. You kind of give some stuff about entrepreneurship, about fitness, about all these different things. So what would be one thing that you would want the Spotlighters to walk away from this episode with? So you're under the spotlight.
All right. Okay, guys. Just let it go. Whatever is in your head, like, oh, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Who cares? Everything is made up. And if you can just find a way to make whatever you want to do just fun, like find the fun in it, find the joy in it. And then for goodness sakes, celebrate the journey, celebrate the little things that you're doing along the way, because so often we're so hard on ourselves and we're like, oh, I haven't done this. I haven't done this. I haven't done this. And I'm trying to reach this goal and I'm not there yet. And in business and in trying to make ourselves better personally, we forget to celebrate the things that we are doing, which means that we're not motivated to continue, which means we fall off the wagon and then we feel even worse about ourselves than before when we started. And so I always say, without celebration, there is no motivation. So let's celebrate all of the little things that we do every day along the journey, and let's figure out a way to make it fun. And anytime we're thinking about not doing something because of somebody else or doing something because of somebody else, let's drop it and let's just go for what we want to make happen in our lives. Because at the end of the day, like, the only thing that matters is what we were able to do with the time that we have here on earth. Like, that's all that matters. And if we have something little and silly keeping us from doing that, like Rhino Julie has had her whole entire life, like, that's just ridiculous. Okay. Absolutely ridiculous. So go celebrate all day, every day, and then you'll be motivated and you'll make it happen. Let's go. It all counts.
Love it. Love it. And the intensity with which you were locked in on that camera was awesome. Just because, I mean, like, I felt it. Like, you were talking directly to me and obviously to everybody else that's listening. So that was fantastic. So if people need more of Rhino Julie, which I can't imagine after this episode that they do not want more of you, where can they go to get it?
Oh man, I am Rhino Julie everywhere on the Instagrams. Actually, I'm Camp Rhino Julie there, and on the Facebooks and on my YouTube channel, Rhino Julie everywhere. I do answer my own messages, no bot. So I would love to hear from you. And we love you. You guys are amazing for still listening after so many minutes.
I know. Yeah. Well, I mean, I was locked in the whole time, and I would imagine everybody else that's listening is locked in the whole time. So for everybody listening, I will make sure that I put all of Rhino Julie's stuff in the show notes. So make sure to go connect with her. Maybe in February after this episode airs, you can try one of these 5-day things. I'll let you know how my 5-day challenge goes. We shall see. But I will also make sure that I put the morningspotlight.com and the morningspotlight@gmail.com in the show notes as well if you want to reach out to the show. Julie, thank you so much for coming on the show with us today. I told you at the beginning that I wanted to have you on the show during PodMax. They didn't make it happen, so I made it happen. We made it happen. And I really appreciate you coming on the show with us today.
Oh man, thank you so much. Rhino Tough, everybody.
Rhino Tough. Yeah, there we go. Awesome. Spotlighters, thank you for listening. This has been the Morning Spotlight. I'm Mike Ham. She was Rhino Julie. She's obviously a badass. Thank you for listening, and we'll catch you next time.